If you attended school to at least the secondary level, you have heard about the might and military prowess of the Oyo Empire. The cavalry, the structure, the sheer size, or maybe you have heard about how big and powerful Ibadan was. Becoming the largest city in West Africa in the 19th century, they were giants in the history of the Yoruba people. But have you ever truly asked yourself the logical heavy question: if we were so powerful, how then did the white people, the British, fight and conquer us on our own land? If our history book preaches strength, why did we end up colonized? Let's talk about the uncomfortable truth of the conquest in this video. Work with me in history. Well, the thing is, they didn't fight and colonize us, not in the way we usually imagine. Actually, we fought ourselves, drained all our energy, and essentially told them, come and take over. Because we were tired and the whole Yoruba race, or at least the major powers within it, had been locked in brutal self-destructive combat for about 16 long years. And all the British did, they sat in one corner watching us bleed ourselves dry when we were too tired, too broke, and too disunited to do anything. That is when they came in. That is when they came in and finished the job, not with a massive conquering army, but with treaties and papers. Let's rewind a bit. To set the scene, by the time the British started poking around seriously, the Great Oyo Empire had already fallen. Its destruction wasn't the British doing, it was internal. It fell due to a combination of political instability. Remember the power of the Baṣọ̀run and its clashes with the Aláàfins, and the constant pressure and eventual military conquest by the Fulani forces of Ilorin. But that is a deep, dramatic story for another day. So after the fall of Oyo, a new power rose to dominate Ibadan. Ibadan was getting bigger and started dominating different parts of the Yoruba land. It was essentially trying to replace the Oyo Empire as the primary military and political force. But everybody knows Ibadan, even till today, has a reputation for being strong as. This arrogant, expansionist nature of Ibadan led to a massive dissatisfaction among the people under their yoke. People like the Ekiti, Egba, Ijebu, and others had had enough. They couldn't take the aggressive domination anymore, so they joined together in a massive coalition historically known as the Ekiti Parapọ̀, meaning the Ekiti Union or Ekiti Alliance. This coalition was famously headed by the legendary warrior Okedengbe Agbogungboro of Ijeshaland in 1877. They formally declared war on the Ibadan people. This conflict, known as the Kiriji War or the Ekiti Parapọ̀ War, wasn't just a skirmish. It was a decade and a half-long nightmare. According to a popular belief, Ibadan had the military strength and could have won the war. They almost did in the early age, but something miraculous and tragic happened for the coalition. The Ekiti Parapọ̀ got their hands on advanced British-made breech-loading rifles from the coast, which were smuggled up through the Ijebu middlemen. This upgrade in firepower immediately leveled the playing field and turned what could have been a quick Ibadan victory into a long, brutal war of attribution that lasted for 16 years, from 1877 all the way to 1893. By the late 1880s, the Yoruba were utterly exhausted. The economic cost was astronomical. Trade routes were closed, agriculture was neglected, and the loss of life was devastating. People were literally begging for peace. Some factions, broken and desperate, were actually calling on the British, who had their base in Lagos, to intervene and end the war. The British, who had been sitting in the corner observing since day one, saw their perfect opportunity. They didn't come in gun blazing, they came in wearing suits, acting as mediators and peacemakers. They started drafting agreements and treaties for our king and war leaders. And they genuinely did settle the war. The Peace Treaty of 1893 is a real historical landmark, but here is the catch, the painful twist. Many of these agreements that were signed, often under duress and desperation, subtly gave the British a significant political and economic power over the land. By the time the king and the chiefs fully realized what was going on, it was already too late. The war had lasted 16 years, Where were the kings going to get the weapon, the fighting men, and the resources to fight the white men now? They were politically broken and financially bankrupt. This is not to say people didn't try. Some groups did fight back firstly. There were major battles like the British Ijebu War, Ogun Imagban in 1892, where the Ijebu people made a valiant yet ultimately failed stand against the British military advance. And yes, there were early conflicts like the Lagos Reduction War of 1851, but all these final scattered attempts just couldn't succeed because the Yoruba land was already utterly broken and in disarray. So if it ever comes to your mind how the Oyibo beat us and colonized us, just remember this: they didn't beat us, the British merely picked up the pieces. Don't forget to follow me or subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into our history.